Try this again. Yeah, well, welcome back. I know that a lot of you have been waiting for me to do the predictions for this year. So I did have some time this morning to write out the predictions. So we're going to go through those. I do really intend to not be on this live forever because I also would like to eat at some point. But yeah, so that's why I kind of wanted to do it around this time. So it would kind of force myself not to sit here all day and be on live with you guys. So I'm kind of being a little bit methodical about the time period that I'm doing these predictions, but nonetheless. So I have to find, I think my book. Oh, I got it. I'm like, where's my book? Okay, so I think I have about 4 or 5 pages that I wrote earlier this morning when it comes to the predictions. And there are a lot of predictions that came through with a lot of dates. So that means we're going to have to look up the historical significance tied to those dates. There are some predictions as well when it pertains to the world, but the biggest thing that I got when it came to the predictions was there is not really a whole lot in our face that's going to be going on, kind of like how it was in 2020 and 21. Like we had a lot of predictions for that. There's a lot of stuff coming in because there was a lot of things that were going to be happening in our face on the ground. But this particular year's predictions kind of reminded me that this is kind of like that calm before the storm. There's a lot of building block scenarios that are happening over this next year that may seem very small, may not really seem like a big deal, but they lead into possibly, hopefully not for some of them, they lead into bigger things. Now, what those things could boil down to, that's still left to be determined. Okay. So, um, I guess I'll go ahead and go through what I have, and then when I get to one where it's going to require me to pull up the page, then I will take a second to do that, and then we'll kind of discuss it. Okay. So, and I did end up writing these down in my journal that I wrote majority of all the other predictions down in. Okay. Some of you may have remembered when I was kind of going back and forth trying to figure out, should I get rid of this journal? Even though I pretty much put all the other stuff on YouTube and then on my website, but I ended up keeping it. So yeah, it's this one. And then there's a couple more. Yeah, see, here's the 2021 predictions that I wrote. Excuse my chicken scratch. Okay. But yeah, so I found it. So all that stuff is still in here. And I haven't went back through to check and see if this stuff actually happened. I just haven't found the time. But nonetheless, so let me go back to where we're supposed to be. Oh, and before I get started, hello everybody in the chat. I completely forget to do that. So Yolanda, Sagittarius, Yolanda again, Goldie, D, hey you guys. Oh, also if you have questions, some things that you are curious about, if I have time at the end, then I will take questions on things that you guys are curious about. But right now we're just going to kind of like go through it, okay? So starting out with, I don't know if salmonella can be found in eggs. I'm assuming so, but you just never know. But salmonella tied to eggs, and I'll probably write some of this stuff down in the chat, if I remember. But I'm gonna do this one and see. Hopefully, I spell it right. Or if I forget one and one of you guys wants to write it, then you are more than welcome to. So salmonella eggs, and then I kept getting eagles a lot, so I'm not sure what the spiritual significance of an eagle is. I know that it is important. I just don't know exactly what the significance of it would be. I don't know. But eagles, specifically the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I don't know what that can mean because I know some of you probably are going to that thought pattern of maybe like Super Bowl next time. I don't know. but that is what I got. Okay. But we are going to have to look up the spiritual meaning behind eagles. I have an idea, but I just need to look at it first. Okay. So mark that off so I don't lose my place. Okay. Mesopotamia. Now, what this could be about, I'm not sure. Because I don't know the exact history tied to Mesopotamia, but there's something in there. So I'm going to bookmark Mesopotamia, and I'm going to probably come back to it maybe later on this evening, because I have not a clue what that could be about, but we'll see. Actually, let me put down Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, just trying to keep track. Okay, so then I saw a bunch of mattresses like in a truck, in the back of a truck. And in those mattresses were like a lot of bed bugs. I actually feel like that these mattresses are already in transit. So I mean, of course, this can happen anywhere, but for some reason, this one seems like it's going to be kind of out of control. How it was whenever it was the whole, was it Paris? Which one? It wasn't the Olympics. Was it the Olympics? I can't remember. But there was a particular event that took place, and there was like a lot of bed bugs. But I'm seeing the same thing again. But the mattresses are already en route. Where they're going, I didn't get that, but I did see them moving already. So, yeah. Okay, so another volcano, or just volcanoes, period. And then we have East Ireland. Now, Ireland came up quite a bit in the prediction. So that could be a hotspot. That may just be a place where a lot of things are brewing to possibly take place. But I have more predictions coming later on, okay, that we're going to have to do some Googling about, because there's some laws and so I would just put Ireland as a whole. And then I'll also put volcanoes, but I got East Ireland. So, whatever that would be. I don't think that's how you spell volcanoes, is it? No, that ain't right. Yeah, I was right the first time. Okay. Okay. So is some sort of Islamic state will fall, or it may seem like it's falling. So there could be, who knows, some sort of scandal. There's going to be something that's going to come forward pertaining to this. Okay. So that one was kind of vague, but I wrote it down anyway, because that is what I heard. Okay. Now I know a lot of you probably have been waiting on this particular prediction because it's tied to money. But the economy, we're going to have to expand on the economy, which is probably going to require me to do a tarot reading. But the gist that I got from that in terms of the economy is just not good. It actually may be a bit worse than what we realistically want to put out there. But it just was not good. There was something that I tied it to and I just forgot, but we'll have to come back to this later on, because this is going to have to be pull the tarot cards. I might not have to, because I also did get more information about the economy. But we'll have to fill in the gaps if need be. Okay. So some sort of sentence, or someone's sentence, is going to be overturned. And this person seemed to have been put away for capital murder or some sort of charge tied to murder. But there is going to be a sentence overturned. Now, obviously, I'm bringing this up because we know this happens a lot, where somebody has been put behind bars and they were wrongfully convicted. But obviously, this one seems to be somewhat of a big deal. So I wrote it down. Okay. So I got to put two things. So we have economy, can't spell. We have sentence overturned. Oops. Capital murder. Or, it could be maybe murder in the second degree or something like that. Okay. So moving forward. Public lynching. Now, this one is going to have to be dug into more as well, because we know lynching is bad. Lynching is definitely, we know, okay, we're all not slow here. Definitely very old time slavery, all that stuff. But this could be a metaphor, maybe in some sort of a way, when it pertains to someone will go through some sort of a public lynching. Still is going to have to be expanded on, because it was vague who this person could be. But there's so much stuff happening with so many people in so many different corners of the world. It could really be anybody. But this one seems like it's going to be a big story. So we'll have to come back to that one too. I'll just put a heart by it, I guess, since I need to come back. So we're going to have to revisit economy and this public lynching. Okay, conjunctivitis came through. So how do you spell that? Yeah, that's right. Conjunctivitis. Okay. Measles. We already, again, if you guys remember, we already talked about this on predictions. I'm pretty sure I talked about this. It had to be 2023 predictions or 2022 predictions. I know I brought it up. I have 2 more journals that I've written predictions in, but I'm pretty sure it's in there. I'm making note of this because they may tie it or make mention of Australia when it pertains to this whole measles situation, or that may be the next sort of breaking news when it comes to measles. But I did put measles tied to Australia. So we'll have to see what's going to happen with that. Okay. So now we have, I have to censor myself. We have C19 part 2, same place. It didn't give the time though, but this is a part 2. I didn't check and see if it's going to be just as bad or worse, but I didn't really get that they were going to make a big thing about it like the last time. Even if it is worse, I don't think they're really going to do that this time around. So I'm going to put a heart by that because we might have to expand on that one as well. Okay, see, Eagles came up again. So Eagle brand milk, the milk that you use, especially in desserts, for a lot of desserts if you're a baker, that came up. Okay. Okay, yeah, and then I put it spiritual meaning of eagles. So I'm gonna have to look that up, the spiritual meaning of eagles. Daredevil. So there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be doing a lot of crazy, dangerous type of stuff when it comes to just, I guess, being adventurous. Now, they may paint it as they are freak accidents, but what I was picking up is that they're not really freak accidents. So you may have already kind of seen this happening, maybe even way back into April of this past year. You may have already kind of seen this happening. And, they may have said, oh my God, we just don't know how this necessarily happened. But I'm just not really getting that whole, it just happened out of nowhere type of thing. It feels kind of in a way that some people, I'm not going to say a lot, that some people have like this death wish upon themselves. Why they want to do that, I don't know. But that's what I was getting. Okay. Then we move on to a missing person. This person may be in the field of they may be a paralegal. They may be in the field of law. Okay. Or just anything in the legal field. Okay. Again, this seems like it's going to be somewhat of a pretty significant story. So wherever this is coming from, we'll have to see. I mean, this honestly, I got a word coming from the East, wherever the heck the East would be, or whatever East, I guess, from where you're at. Okay, so, and then I saw a flag flowing, but the way I saw the flag flowing, it made me think of like we're way back during the time of the Civil War or stuff like that, in time of George Washington, where they use the flags to signify like this land has been conquered, like the victory has been won by this particular country. That's what I'm getting. So this could be tied to an already ongoing war or situation, or this could be coming up. Okay, there's going to be some sort of flag flowing style victory that's going to happen when it pertains to a country. To me, it felt like war. Okay, so now we're getting down into the parts where we're probably going to have to do a little bit of research. Okay, so we have the Battle of Little Blue River. Now, this occurred in Massachusetts, and this was 1864. Now, right next to it, I got Civil War on American soil. I think I kind of spoke about this in my previous predictions last year, but this is coming up. Okay, so I'm gonna like minimize myself, or I'm gonna take myself away. I'm still here, but I'm gonna pull up another screen so we can look at this. What's it called again? Battle of Little Blue River. I don't necessarily know what this battle was about. Okay, so we're gonna go to the Civil War on the Western Border. I mean, that's the actual name of the website that has information on this. So I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see. So this is where we're at now. Okay, the Battle of Little Blue River. Okay, so this was fought on October 21st, 1864, as part of Price's raid during the American Civil War. And that's interesting because I did put beneath it that it was a civil war on American soil. I did put that on there. Okay. So then we have Major General Sterling Price, which I believe, oh, I thought that was him. No, that's somebody else. Major General Sterling Price of the Confederate States Army led an army into Missouri in September of 64 with hopes of challenging Union control of the state. So this also adds on to a lot of the predictions I was getting or have been getting is over border wars. Border wars are already happening. Border wars are going to increase. Now, St. Louis is a part of this Battle of the Little Blue River. And if you guys remember my predictions from last year, I said it, or maybe this was the predictions from Twitter. I made mention that St. Louis in some sort of way was going to be somewhat of like a hot spot. Now, what the hot spot was going to be, it can vary. But to continue with this, during the early stages of the campaign, Price abandoned his plan to capture St. Louis and later his secondary target of Jefferson City, Missouri, if you guys didn't catch the drift. The Confederates then began moving westward, brushing aside Major General James G. Blunt's Union force in the Second Battle of Lexington on October 19th. 2 days later, Blunt left part of his command under the authority of Colonel Thomas Moonlight to hold the crossing of the Little Blue River while the rest of his force fell back to independence. So if we dissect this, even though we know this is about the South and this is about control of the Union, challenging the Union of the state, etc., we could still say this could apply in anywhere of the world where you have somewhat of like this mission to go in and try to forcefully seize control of some sort of land, whatever that land could be. So if you think about the way battles were way back this time period, 1800s, 1700s, early 1900s, however, a lot of it happened to, catching the other states, countries, nations off guard. It's going to be the same thing. This may already be happening as we're talking, but there is many, I guess, messages or many wars starting to form when it pertains to situations like this, challenging the control of one's right to said property. And I was kind of thinking on my other predictions that the vibe I was getting from all these instances where it's trying to gain back control of land, it was kind of making me think that there is a lot of ancestral activity happening underground. That's the only thing that I was getting that would make sense in this particular scenario. Ancestors from these time periods, rather that be from 1737, 1731, 1864, it doesn't matter. They are starting to run rampant. Why? I don't know if it has something to do with Pluto moving into Aquarius. It could be. But either way. So I guess we can, I don't know if we want to read the background because it's pretty lengthy. Oh, look at that, the Battle of Pea Ridge in Arkansas. But you guys can kind of go back and read more into this. I will read more into it as well, but I kind of just wanted to give you the gist of why I got this particular prediction. Okay. Anyway, so there's some more that we have to look up as well. So moving on. So now we have that on the list. Now we're probably, or I might have to expand, and this is probably going to have to be a past life reading for the Battle of Little Blue River, because it would just be kind of hard for me to pick up what the hell this means in the tarot cards, because they're just not going to give me what I need. So this may have to be a past life reading. And if you guys didn't know, or you can't tell, I love history. I don't know if it's because I was born a couple months, or maybe I was born during the time of the Rodney King riots, maybe. I don't know if that's kind of like why I love history, and maybe I was just energetically born with kind of like that vibe, but I just really love history. I really do. It's just a lot of stuff to learn. Okay, so moving on. Now we're going to St. Augustine. Now, this to me, now that I put it down, this screams like Florida. So let me put that in the chat. And hello to anybody that has popped in. So I will put that in. I'm pretty sure that's Florida. I could be wrong about where St. Augustine is, but I feel like that's Florida. But underneath it, I actually wrote captain. So again, another hint or energy tied to like Army, Marines, Navy, any type of those armed forces type of thing. So the next one, there's going to be a lot of walking away, and I'm going to. Okay, we're back to just okay. So there's going to be a lot of walking away that's going to be happening across the board, and this is more so going to be tied to people, not necessarily jobs. I mean, I guess I didn't really check to see if the walking away pertains to jobs, but the vibe I was getting was more so walking away from people. And it may seem like it's a small thing, but there's going to be a lot of, maybe even a lot more breakups than again we want to admit to. And that's sad, because walking away is tough, but yeah, sometimes it has to happen. So moving on to we have okay. So moving on, we have poverty. I really was trying to get another word out of them besides poverty, because we know poverty is just bad. It doesn't matter where you come from, what language you speak. Everybody knows the meaning of poverty. That's like a universal language, kind of like high and by. It's universal. We know what that means. But I was specifically getting the Five of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles. Now, it may not seem like the Six of Pentacles, if we just look at the card itself, it may not seem like the Six of Pentacles in a way can be tied to poverty. But when you kind of think about the imagery of the Six of Pentacles, and maybe I can find cards. I think, oh, wow, look at that. I think I got them all. Okay, so I'm going to try to find the Six of Pentacles so you can get a visual of what I'm saying about the imagery. This is the original imagery. I know cards have been made over and over and over again with different imageries. I get that. But, okay, so here we have the Five of Pentacles. There's the one I talked about. There's the first card. And I'm trying to find the Six of Pentacles. Here we go. This is the Six of Pentacles. Now, walk with me, okay? Because, again, if you guys have been here since the beginning, you know that the way I see the cards is just a little bit different. Everybody has their own interpretation, how they see the cards, but I don't know. I don't know why I look at it the way it does. I do, but it makes me think it kind of, kind of like Odin, I guess, if you know anything about Norse astrology, or not astrology, Norse mythology, is kind of like Odin. He's one of those, I guess. But anyway, so you see how you just have this one person who pretty much has a majority of the wealth, and he's giving to these two people on the ground. So in some sort of a sense, that's why I said I was kind of getting, a little bit of poverty in the Six of Pentacles because of the two individuals sitting on the ground. He has the advantage, yes, okay, but in some sort of way, they're like beggars to me. And it's more than likely these beggars right here in the Five of Pentacles. You see, the cards are a movie, okay? The cards are the story. It's not an individual. I mean, it can be, but to me, they're not individual, if that makes sense. Every single card, even if it's one, that is the movie. And if you don't tell the movie right, then you just lost, So this is the movie. Look at it. These two right here, to me, are these two. They're not in the same energy anymore in terms of kind of like in the winter. Now it's moved over to spring, but they're still begging. They're still on the ground. And this person kind of like holds all the money, holds all the power. So I'm kind of associating that a little bit when it comes to poverty in these predictions. There's one particular person or one particular group of people that we, of course, that's holding all of the power. But this time around, it's almost like the majority of people are being more in this Five of Pentacles energy. Foreclosures, damaged property. And I also do get some energy as well where there may even be periods or reports where people are just like damaging property for no good freaking reason. They're just doing it. And of course, that displaces people. That puts people in a bad spot. Now, this could be because also with the Five of Pentacles, we have the number 5, which is tied to Mercury. We know Mercury is the intellect. Okay. Very analytical. But we also know Mercury is mischief, like the magician, or we could say like Loki, that's Norse mythology as well, the god of mischief. So it kind of gives me that vibe as well. Like there's going to be a lot of manipulation going on, especially when it pertains to the government, taxes, money, period. So much manipulation that now we're in this particular energy. Now, how we got there, I mean, I don't know. But this is an issue. And then you're going to have this person who thinks of themselves somewhat as a god, who's going to be making it. It's like there's this one person that wants to hold all the power and they want everybody to bow to them. Now, this is more so like a spiritual thing that I'm getting. Whoever this person is, we will have to investigate, but we're not going to investigate right now. But this person with the Six of Pentacles, they're probably in the field of could be beauty, or they're in anything tied to Taurus. So it could be finance. So could be somebody who started a bank or who owns a lot of banks. I mean, these may be people that we don't really see them a lot, but they're there. Okay, so right now, just in terms of economy or where we're going, economically speaking, the US of A is on their knees to whoever the hell this person is. Now, I'm not going to rule out that this person may even be foreign in a sense. They may not be a citizen, or they may have like dual citizenship. So, oh, I forgot politics. It could be a politician. Forgot about that. I didn't think about that because there's the scales and balance right there in his hand. Okay. So this is where we're at financially speaking as a country, which to me, it doesn't really seem that great. Loans as well, because that's Six of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles is loans. So this is not a good time to go for a loan, even if it pertains to a house, because guess what you're going to be? You're going to be kind of like on your knees a little bit. Okay. No way. It's just something's very hidden financially speaking, and it's just not going to play out great. It's already not playing out great. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much, but yeah, anyway, so we're going to have to expand on that probably later on. But anyway, so now we're going to lice. I mean, if you've ever had to experience this or, know somebody who experiences, how lice can be bad, can get bad. But I got lice tied to Maryland. Okay. So we'll have to be on the lookout for, there's like a lot of hot spots where there's these diseases kind of popping up. They're not super close together. They're spread out. That's weird to me. Anyway, and how ironic, I was talking about the government and that Five of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles. And then we have government, federally funded programs, price gouging. Again, this is probably going to have to be expanded on, because that's as much as I got during that time. But I did make mention of last year where I said the Social Security program is going to take a hit. Now, it may have seemed like a long shot at that particular point in time, or this may have been 2021. But either way, I said it. And I think that report probably came out last year about the Social Security taking a hit. Hopefully it'll still be there whenever I need to get to that point. But then we have ladder. Okay, so we're gonna have to, or I'm gonna have to look up the spiritual meaning tied to ladders. I don't know. I know there is was it like an old wives' tale that you shouldn't walk under a ladder? But I don't know what the spiritual meaning of it is. This may have to end up being a part 2, but we're just gonna see. Oh, that makes sense. It's so weird. I looked up the spiritual meaning of ladder, and the first thing that popped up was the University of Michigan. And I guess they have a particular section on their website where they talk about symbolism, which I did not know that. Learning something new every day. So, okay, I guess I'll use this one. So let me share my screen so you guys can see what this means. Hold on. Okay. Now it was just loading. Okay, there it goes. Oh, see, these like 50 million things that pops up at once. Come on, go away. I was wondering, like, why it's taking so long to load? Did I not click that? I clicked it. There we go. Oh my goodness. Let me go back. Why do you put like 50 million videos on a page? There we go. Okay. La la la. Well, okay. So ladders can carry various meanings, including progress, transformation, and also a bridge between different stages of life or goals. Symbolize both the journey of life and its end. I didn't know that. Okay. Ladders can as a metaphor for our emotional development. As we climb higher and higher, we gain new insights and understandings about ourselves, but also the world. When it pertains to hierarchy, they brought up the corporate world, for example, at the very top of the ladder, while entry-level employees start at the bottom. But ladders can be knocked over. This, speaking of symbolism, this may be a symbolism that people are even more going to start to get fed up because of this sentence right here. Unfortunately, not everyone has the same opportunities to climb this ladder of hierarchy. Some people start with more advantages than others and have an easier time climbing up. So with that, it makes me think of people that were born into like prominent families or born with this leg up. They may find themselves being attacked, not just verbally. They may be attacked physically because of this particular sentence. You started with more advantages than others, and you have an easier time climbing up. So you may see these individuals that maybe have been more so out in your face, more so out and back. You may see them withdraw more from the public because it just won't necessarily be safe, because it's almost like you're in a time of anarchy when it pertains to people. And this whole symbolism pertains to ladders and the hierarchy. People are getting to that point where they're really just tired of it. So maybe this also plays into why companies maybe are laying off a lot of people, maybe because of that ladder symbolism as well, because they're trying to go through a period where they're being attacked. So maybe in a weird way, they're kind of deducing, I guess, their number of people, because maybe they're anticipating that they're going to be on this particular type of way because of unfairness. But I feel like it's coming. There's so much going on, and I'm just going to like stop sharing that because it's any freaking videos and it's irritating. But anyway, so I mean that could be interesting. Okay, so then we have Apple. So the Apple robot, or the iRobot. Have you ever seen iRobot? The movie. I don't know if this is a good idea, but it seems like the Apple is already in process of actually making a robot, kind of like the movie. I don't know how that's going to go, but my spidey senses say that it's not going to go well, especially because coming soon, they may start to kind of be in that trial phase where they're going to start actually trying it out in real life scenarios. They may already be doing it, but they could be kind of like disguising themselves under another company. So company A may be like, oh, we're testing out this robot, but company B, Apple, is really the ones behind said robot, the functionality and all the money that goes into it, but they don't want to put their name attached to it because what if it goes wrong? Then we've lost our customer base. See, I know the game. I know your game. But yes. Anyway, So then we have Elon. You know who Elon Musk is, the tech guy, the Tesla guy. He's really going to be deep diving even more into conspiracies. Why he's doing this, I don't know. Um, he may have drank too much of the juice that he has access to, but he's really, really going to be deep diving into conspiracy. It's just going to be conspiracy alley for him, and he's like one of us, I guess. Okay, so this on a little lighter note, we have Blanche, which I'm pretty sure is from the Golden Girls, and then Three's Company. So they may be thinking about doing a remake if they haven't already, like starting that series over again. That's what we're going to be getting. That's the time we're going to be flowing into as well. There's going to be a lot of reusing of old material, like they did it in Pluto and in Capricorn, but they're going to be doing it even more now. So now it's going to be like, where is the originality? The originality is going to be hard to find, but once it's found, those particular people, they are going to skyrocket. Okay. But things are going to just be kind of boring when it pertains to entertainment, if you haven't realized that already. Now, I am an avid TV watcher, but I found myself pretty much since Pluto moved into Aquarius, I found myself turning off the TV a lot more. Like normally I kind of needed to go to sleep, but now I'm just like, come with me, turn the TV on, turn the TV off, because it's just not entertaining, you know. It's the gimmick. We already know what you're gonna do. We already know kind of like where you're coming from. What else is there? So that level of creativity that was there, Pluto and Libra, even a little bit of Pluto and Capricorn, that's kind of dwindling further and further and further away. The real creatives are hiding, which is why I said whenever the real creatives are found, I mean they're gonna take off, you know. But it's gonna be like finding a needle in a haystack. Okay, so Acme Studios, Acme Television, that made me think of Looney Tunes. So they may be trying to do something more. I don't know if they're going to do a live action scenario with the whole Looney Tunes thing. They may, but we'll just have to see. What does that say? I wrote some, oh, okay. Right to vote. So voter laws, voter rights, all that is going to be in the news again, if it isn't already. So more of that. Venezuela popped up. So who knows what's going to happen there? Okay. So there was a year I was getting, wasn't it? Oh, okay. Okay. I should have put an arrow. Okay. So, Death of a Salesman, that probably is already a play. They're going to do it again. Uh, okay, 1904, legislation tied to 1904. So there is a legislation called, or an act that's called Chinese Exclusion Act of 1904. And that, the year 1904 came up, but then when I did a little bit of research, that was like the first thing that popped up on the main page, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1904. And then I think that's where Venezuela came from as well, because they also had a thing going on in 1904 when it pertained to legislation. So we're going to look at both of them, but we're going to look at the Chinese Exclusion Act first, because I don't even know what it is. Okay, found it. And what is it, the Britannica? This is a really good source, so you know. Okay, let me share my screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I feel like I'm doing a lot more research on these predictions as opposed to the ones in the past. Like I did research in the past, but there's just so many predictions coming through for this one where you have to do research to figure out, okay, what happened in that particular year? Why am I getting that particular year? How does that connect with A, B, and C? Okay, so that's why I said this may end up being a part 2. I think it'll be a part 1, but this stuff requires research. So anyway, the Chinese excluded the United States 1882, but on the interweb, I believe the piece of legislation was signed in 1904. But anyway, so this is a U.S. federal law that was the first and only major federal legislation to explicitly suspend immigration for a specific nationality. So that's what we're heading into. there may be some sort of act that maybe is already circling in the government. And I haven't the time to dig into the government archives of bills being presented in the last couple of years when it comes to this particular legislation. The government may be going for something like this quietly. Things like this, Chinese Exclusion Act, and formerly known as Act of 1882. These things quietly, well, they weren't super thin because, of course, we have the technology or the things to distract us now. So big things, but this is stuff I can see them doing on the back end. And then you wake up one day, they've hit you with a new Exclusion Act, new Immigration Act. Okay. So they may be trying to do this right now, where they're going to try to suspend immigration for a specific nationality. I hate to say it, but Africa is screaming really loudly. And that is really bad because think about all the minerals and all the resources that you get from Africa. A lot of resources that probably haven't really been discovered. I would hate for that to be the case. But the government is about to do something when it pertains to immigration, if they haven't already, and it seems like it is going to make major waves. It is the calm before the storm. These little things, in a way, that are popping up, they feel like they're going to turn into bigger things later. Exclusion law prohibited Chinese laborers defined as both skilled and unskilled laborers employed in mining from entering the country. Now, I don't know if they're going to do the same thing for the same nationality. We never know because they're so unpredictable. Subsequent amendments to the law prevented Chinese laborers who had left the United States from returning. Once you leave, you can't come back. I could kind of see them doing this a little bit as well. When it pertains to this particular nationality, it may be more than one nationality. I said it prior that I had the feeling that the U.S. was going to kind of take strides backwards when it comes to kind of falling back into the way that the country or how the country was built. And if you know the history of the U.S., or even if you don't know the history of the U.S., it's stuff like this. Inclusion and diversity, but not really. It's only inclusion and diversity on paper or where you can see it. But is it truly, really exclusion and diversity? I don't think so. Because to me, like I said, it just feels like they want to go back to how it was. Now, what time period they want to go back to, I don't know. But a lot of the dates I was picking up kind of hint more towards late 1800s, early 1900s, which was not a good time. To continue with this, the passage of the act represented the outcome of years of racial hostility and anti-immigrant agitation by white Americans that set the precedent for later restrictions against immigration of other nationalities and started a new era in which the United States changed from a country that welcomed all immigrants to a what? A gatekeeping one. If you kind of look at what's going on, we kind of are on brand a little bit to start rolling back into stuff like that, just based off of things that are happening that maybe being as broadcasted as much, but little stuff that we ignore that, like I said, turns into the big things. Okay, so now the other part of this was the banking ordinance. Okay, and then there also was I don't know if it was a Supreme Court case. It may have been a Supreme Court case. Berea College v. Kentucky, 1908. This was tied to segregation. All of this stuff goes into the 1904 date that I was getting. And all this stuff has to deal with segregation, segregating people, separating people. It's given concentration camps. And I know that's terrible to say, but that is the way it's given. That's the way it's rolling. I don't know if concentration camps are still a thing. You guys have to let me know, because there's a lot of stuff going on around the world and I can't keep up with. I try, not really, but it's hard to keep up with. I mean, I would imagine so, with this whole situation going on with Russia and Ukraine, I wouldn't put it past either one of them to have concentration camps. I really couldn't. And I don't care if you're on the side, and I don't care if, you could be Ukraine. It's just like, we don't do anything. Well, You did something. You do something. But anyway, so I think we have to. I need to look up that banking ordinance from 1904. So let me go back here and stop sharing for a second. So I find it. Banking. I don't know if it's 1908 or it's 1904. Let me see. Venezuela. Oh, let's look there. Law 1904. I think they had an Exclusion Act as well. Okay, the Constitution of Venezuela of 1904 was sanctioned on April 27th. So it was the second constitution approved during the government of Castro. In it, the presidential term was increased to 6 years, and electoral system for the municipal councils and legislative assemblies was reformed. So Venezuela could be going through a reform in terms of their government, which could kind of go back to the time period of their constitution. Okay, so that's probably, well, I put Venezuela on the paper, so we're just going to have to see. I'm actually interested to learn more about this Constitution of Venezuela because it actually does sound very interesting. You know what? What if, in some strange way, the United States may be kind of wanting to do the same thing, trying to sanction something or trying to reform something to where presidential terms can be increased from 4 to 6 years. I don't know if they have talked about that, but maybe that's why this is coming up. Because they are. I wonder if the U.S. is in bed with Venezuela. I just don't put anything past any particular country, nation, okay? Because at the end of the day, money is to be made, But I will probably read that later. So that'll be interesting. So let's move on to the next page. Okay, talked about that. What time is it? 1:55. Okay, so next page, back to Ireland or Irish sanctuary city. Now, Ireland, I don't know how their political structure is laid out, but it seems like there is some sort of dictator coming into Ireland or will be somewhat politically in charge of Ireland. I don't know who their dictator, leader, monarch. I don't know if they go by the old system. I don't know who this person is. But we have questions. Spiritually, we have questions. Okay, so 1812 was the year that came up next. And this is actually, I believe, the first year of the Cold War. So we may be looking at like a sort of a Cold War part 2. And I don't even know who the people were in the Cold War. I just know there was a Cold War. I'm pretty sure 1812 was the first year of the Cold War. Was it the Cold War? Excuse me. Or they just call it the War of 1812. I feel like there's another word for that. Another word for this one. The War of 1812, UK and the United States. What led to the War of 1812? Curiosity. Okay, pick the thing. Oh, okay. Let me share my screen so you guys can see this. This is not supposed, I feel like I'm like teaching a little bit and I'm really was not trying to do that, but I'm learning too because I know nothing about this stuff, but it's all new stuff. So what was the reason behind the War of 1812 with the 12? Imagine that during what? Gemini season. Was it over import-export stuff? Because, Gemini rules over stuff like that. Oh, the commercial restrictions that Britain's war with France imposed on the U.S. separated the U.S.'s relations with both powers. Although neither Britain nor France initially accepted the U.S.'s neutral rights to trade with the other, and punish U.S. ships for trying to do so. France had begun to temper its stringence, I think that's how you say it, I could be wrong about, on the issue by 1810. That paired with the ascendance of certain pro-French politicians in the U.S. and the conviction held by some Americans that stirring up unrest among Native Americans on the frontier. This set the stage for a U.S.-British war. Now let's unpack that, because there is a particular sentence in here that's sticking out to me like a sore thumb. And it's this one: that paired with the ascendance of certain pro-French politicians in the U.S. and the conviction held by some Americans that the British were stirring up unrest among Native Americans on the frontier. I guess you could kind of think about maybe the things that are going on in the U.S. or across other nations, and you could kind of see how that fits. There's so much like civil unrest. It's almost like pheromone kind of. I seen snakes on a plane, and the guy was spraying the flowers with the pheromone, and it was getting snakes agitated, getting them angry. But it was all a part of the plan. I remember why he was doing that. Was it that the government paid him off? Somebody gonna help me remember, because I just don't remember the plot. But I do remember Samuel Jackson, But, if that is the case, hopefully there's not a trade war about to go on. But as we can see, the reason behind this 1812 war was because of trade, which started again during a Gemini period. So we may be looking at that again. Was it Brexit? That comes to mind when we talk about this war of 1812. So that's a lot. I'm actually going to have to write that down. Is it Brexit? Brexit? I don't know how you guys say it. But yes, start of, end of, whatever it could be. There's just so much to keep up with. I don't really know how politicians do it, because it's like you have to be locked into every single thing. Anyway, what role did Native Americans play in the War of 1812? They began resisting settlement by white Americans before 1812. So we'll have to look into that more later. But, if we could be on the War of 1812 all day. So I'm not trying to do that, but just trying to give a gist. Okay. Heifa. Hey, because it's a pretty interesting question. I don't know if that's what it is. Statement that you have. I don't know if that's what we're gonna call it. But yes, I cheat about this. And it's just the way that the world is rotating in a way. But I do have, so to answer your question, yes, but I do have something written down about this 2 pages later that I'm going to get into. So you can come back later and probably listen to that. But yes, I guess we could say it's like something in the air, but really it's just, it's something internally going on with people. Okay. But that's a good point, because you're not alone with that, by the way. Okay, Diamond. So we're gonna put yours on the screen. Venezuela is trying to annex the Essequibo, I think that's how you say it, which belongs to, was it Guyana, or how do you say it? Guyana? I've heard it both ways. I just don't know the right one. Your family's from there? Oh, that's interesting. We're calling for help from the U.S. for what could be a potential. Oh, yeah, see, and your explanation totally goes along with what I was saying, that it is a buildup. These little things that are happening, they may seem tiny to me or other people because we're not in it, but it's not tiny at all. Okay, and it goes along with what I was talking about with the Chinese Exclusion Act, where you go from a country of accepting to now it's just like, no, nobody can come in. Now we're gatekeeping. We're gatekeeping everything. We're trying to gatekeep technology. Or it's one of those things where you are, I don't want to use the T word, but I kind of want to use the T word, where you're forcefully removing people from certain communities or certain nations because intellectually they can help expand your country in terms of technology, finance, all those things. It's like you're forcing them to come over because they have something that you need. So that may be the exception to the rule that they may have, but it's pretty effed up, you know. Oh, thank you, Guyana. See? Okay. See, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that because I did not know. But you kind of see how history is kind of like replaying, but maybe in a more bizarre way. Okay, so moving on. What time is it? 2:00? Oh, almost a little bit past 2. Lyme disease. Now, I haven't heard a lot about this. I know, especially in the South, you got to be very careful whenever you're going out into the woods, the forest, because a tick is sitting on you too long. Lyme disease. I had a close call once, like last summer. I went to practice, and if you guys don't know, I'm in Arkansas, and Arkansas is trees. There's trees everywhere. There's not really a place you can go, and there are not trees, which makes it difficult for me to be a city girl because the trees are just so me. I don't know. Maybe at one point in time, I climbed trees. I did climb trees, but or I used to be a tree in one of my past lives. But in hunting and camping, that's a big thing here. And ticks are also a big thing. So it's just, yeah. But one of them got stuck on me, and I didn't realize it, almost on my spine. And it like sent a shock through my body. I'm just like, oh my God, what the hell bit me? So you do one of those slappies, and then you're just like, a tick. Like, oh my God, that could have been terrible. But anyway, so we have tectonic plates. So we have earthquakes and we have shifting. Not only is the collective as a people shifting, the world is almost kind of just like a little bit off its axis. I don't know if this has been scientifically proven or they've mentioned it, but I was picking that up, kind of like the world being off its rocker. If you were here at the beginning when I talked about ancestors, how the ancestors from those times, late 1800s up into, or maybe early 1800s up to about early 1900s, it's almost like they are slipping through the cracks as the tectonic plates are shifting. And I know it may seem crazy, but crazier shit has happened. So, but anyway, moving forward, policy changes happening for Vietnam. I don't know what that could be. Okay, but it's on the list, so we talk about it. Okay, the Potpourri Act of 1704. Rika, not taking questions just yet because I'm trying to get through this. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I talk a lot, but my brain is firing on all cylinders. It's describe it like a amusement park, and I just got a lot of rides going on in there. But don't forget your question. Don't let me forget your question, because I will address questions that you guys have about predictions or questions going on in the world. I am not going to forget. Hence why I said it's probably going to be a 2-parter. But who cares? Okay, so the Potpourri Act of 1704. I think this is tied to Ireland, so I have to go back. So this is the 3rd time that we've gotten or I've gotten something tied to Ireland or just Irish descent, period. Okay. Unless a lot of people are going to be wanting to move to Ireland, which we're not going to rule that out. It was an act of Parliament of Ireland that was passed in 1704 designed to suppress Roman Catholicism in Ireland. Now that's interesting. An act of Parliament where you're suppressing pretty much like religion. That is interesting. So that same thing could be happening. It's almost like they made it illegal. After the Tudor conquest of Ireland, the English crown attempted to import the Protestant Reformation into Ireland. The Catholic Church was outlawed, and adherents, good Lord, endured oppression and severe legal penalties for refusing to conform to the religion established by law. Again, more acts tied to segregation, more acts tied to just shutting a lot of stuff down. Now, could this be so bad? I don't know. It depends on what the Roman Catholic Church has going on behind closed doors that we don't know is going on. But the Roman Catholic Church always has something going on, if we're just going to keep it frank. Okay. we'll have to look at that more because there's so much information on that. For some reason, people have been talking about that too. They just started talking about it last year because I see a post somebody made on Reddit about the Potpourri Act from last year. So I don't know, guys, are we on to something? It wouldn't be the first time, but we'll come back to that. So I'm going to put a heart on that. Okay, so again, I picked it up before, the battle for land. There's going to be a lot of battles going on pertaining to land in multiple different places. Okay, on a little bit of lighter note, Liza Minnelli, don't know what they could be doing with her. Who knows? Documentary, anything of that. Creed 4, and I specifically heard Michael David Washington. And if you don't know who that is Denzel Washington's son. The only movie I've seen him play in that I can remember is the one where he did the Netflix movie with Zendaya, and it was like in black and white. I don't know the name of it, but that's the last movie I remember of him in. He probably was in more. I just didn't pay attention. Okay. Derek Fisher came up. For some reason, people are going to want to domesticate fish that should not be domesticated. Here we go again. Issues with air quality. And what are the purpose of windmills? I should know this. If somebody knows off the top of your head, please let me know. But whatever the purpose of windmills are, for some reason that's popping up and is tied to air quality, I should know this, but I don't. Okay, we'll come back to that. I'll just put, somebody will remind me. Okay, so Los Angeles, hotspot, immigration. Now, they could be enacting something when it pertains to immigration, or they may be the ones who start to set the precedent when it pertains to the whole Exclusion Act that we talked about, Immigration Act that we talked about, the issue tied to Venezuela. I'll be watching Los Angeles like a hawk because Los Angeles to me is very Neptune ruled. So you think you got it figured out, but you don't. You got to really be deep, deep, deep in the crevice of, I feel, spiritual something to really get to the bottom of Los Angeles, because Los Angeles to me reminds me of the song by, is it the Beatles, Hotel California? That should be California's theme song. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of innuendos in that song. Moving on. So I had never heard of this, but I had put cranky baby syndrome, and then I kind of researched it and I said, that might be a thing or not. And it is a thing. It's actually called, I think it's called infant baby syndrome. So this seems like it's going to rise. Infant baby syndrome. Why are they comparing it to SIDS? That's not it. I saw it. No. It's not. No, maybe it's not that. It's something else. I looked it up earlier. I looked it up under cranky baby, irritable baby syndrome. That's what it is. Why there is going to be an uptick in this? That is a good question that I don't really have an answer to. I guess some people would refer to as colic, which I think my daughter had that. Maybe it was years ago. I mean, she's fine now. It's crazy as ever. So, but yes. So in a study of 316 infants suffering from excessive crying, because that's what it is, it also says babies who have experienced a hard and fast delivery, a prolonged birth, or a complicated birth with the use of vacuum extraction or forceps may be irritable due to muscular aches and pain. So this makes me think there's something going on if we're just pertaining to development, bone development, when it pertains to babies that are incubating right now or babies that are being born. Of course, babies' bones are already fragile, but now it seems like that there is something else going on. But to continue, in a study of 316 infants suffering from excessive crying, let me share my screen so you can see. What time is it? Almost 2:15. Okay, so 94% showed dramatic improvement following chiropractic treatment. Now that's crazy. I didn't know that. Well, again, learn something new. Another study compared chiropractic treatment and the drug dimethicone. Dimethicone. It showed that chiropractic was significantly better in reducing crying time than the drug dimethicone. Now, I don't know the side effects of this drug. I don't know what else this drug does outside of what we're talking about. Babies with musculoskeletal injuries are more likely to cry excessively. That seems to me like people are maybe not necessarily being as safe or mindful when it comes to certain things that they are doing, especially because we also are going to be going into a time where health, working out is going to be so in your face. And there's nothing wrong with working out 100% when you have a baby. I did it, but I wasn't in the gym lifting weights, powerlifting, walking, running, jogging, riding a bike, the basic stuff. But it seems like people are going to be pushing themselves a bit far when it comes to working out and trying to stay fit. It's almost like they won't allow their body to just naturally go through the process of baking a baby, which is hard. It is. Some have a harder time than others, you know. So I don't know. But that is an issue. Okay, moving on. Let me move that out the way. Okay, like a couple more minutes and then I gotta hit the road, hit the dusty trail. Okay. So TransUnion, which would be the credit company, lawsuit, if they haven't had one already. Lactose intolerance is gonna rise. Windows. People are going to be having these requests when it comes to windows. You know how corporate buildings, you have the windows where they can see you, you can't see them. It's not a two-way mirror, but people are going to want those windows installed in their homes more this year or moving forward, which I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess a window is a window, so I guess you can do whatever you want to do. But yes, people will start turning their homes slowly into doomsday bunkers, and these won't be like underground. This will be like right in your face. If you've ever seen, what's the name of that movie where, oh God, oh, The Purge, the first Purge. Whenever he had installed like uh, the security system, and it pretty much locked down his home like a doomsday bunker, but it was above ground, kind of like that. I mean, people are going to go to extensive stuff when it comes to doing this. All right, Lisa Leslie came up. Taylor Swift came up. I know one of you have been asking me about Taylor Swift. I have not forgotten, but I just haven't gotten around to it. The Prince of Egypt live action. Leos, a lot of Leos for some reason will want a baby, or they will want a bigger family. I don't know what they're going through. Exhaustion. A lot of people will be exhausted. You may, and that go, where'd she go? Or they go. I think that pertain to Hafa's point. Exhaustion. The angriness is coming from exhaustion. People are tired. You have to do 50, you have to do 51 things, you have to be 50 and 1 different people in order to make it, and it's like getting harder. So that's where the anger is coming from. Okay, don't get mad at me for what I'm about to say. A lot of people with children, now this could be man or woman, don't matter, will be detaching themselves from the home, meaning they won't really be interested in being around their kids. So the emotional and psychological development when it pertains to children is kind of going to tank because people are just not really going to care. Like, that whole self-soothing thing that they want babies to go through, that is going to rise higher. look, I understand that they just have to learn. I haven't really been much of a self-soother. Like after 5 minutes, I can't take it. Just come on. I'll just strap you on my back in our little thing and then we'll just go. I can't take it after 5 minutes. I can't. Um, I don't like even seeing people cry for 30 seconds. So I couldn't imagine doing that, but a lot of people will be doing it. Headhunting political leaders or influencers are coming up, specifically political leaders with Aquarius moon or Aquarius placements. They're kind of like on a chopping block. I don't know what's going on with that, but it came up. Depression, we already kind of talked about that. That kind of is tied into exhaustion. Fever illness. So in 1492 to 1502, there was a thing called sweating illness that I think was coined because of Henry VIII. I'm kind of running out of time, so I don't have time to deep dive into that. But again, we will do a follow-up on part 2. In part 2, you guys can ask your questions or ask clarifying questions on stuff I've already talked about. I heard a shootout in Vegas. I hope not. Okay, lack of love. There's going to be a lot of truth bombs, but people are just going to be so attached to not giving a damn about if they hurt you or not. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of relationships that are going to be lost as well because of this. So skeletons in the closet, I don't care if it was an affair 10 years ago. They're going to want to come out with it now, and the relationship is going to be over at that point. The spiritual connection is just gone. A lot of people's connections are just gone. They're dead. They're dying. The Ace of Cups kept coming in reverse. It's just not there. The warmth is not there. It's cold, like the Cold War, but not the actual war. Who knows? But it could be. Oh, Johnny Dang, I forgot about that. Spiritual connection is dying. There's going to be a lot of debates, debate teams, debate panels, podcasts, stuff like that. Railroad, pipeline, Union Pacific. And I heard a train crash, but specifically a train crash, a big one that happened, I think, in 1502. And I think this was in Alaska, where it may have been one of the biggest recorded train crashes in history. But yeah, I'm going to heart that because we'll have to go through that later. But this is part 1 because I have to go. But this is part 1. I know it was a lot of information that I gave out in part 1, way more than I've ever given out for predictions. But I still have 2 more pages to go. But I appreciate you guys staying for part 1. I don't know when I'll do part 2 because I just have some stuff to do this evening. But I will let you know like I did earlier. And I will see you guys later.